Good morning and welcome to another edition of Business Week, a 1 hour program during which we take a deep dive into some of the important economic developments in the country. As usual, joining me in the studios are Dr. Adeosun, who is BusinessDay's chief economist, and of course, Lolade, BusinessDay's editor. We promise you a very exciting program this morning. But before we get into it, first, one or two headlines about developments around the world. Nigeria's organized private sector has given its full backing to the government's proposal to introduce an import tariff in the magnitude of 15% on imported petroleum products. The London-based Economist published a groundbreaking analysis Monday morning that it says offers a visual outline of how an AI stock market bust, rivaling the dot-com bust, will wipe out 8% of household income in America. 8% of household income in America. The government in Georgia appears to be in a great hurry to eliminate every pretension of moving towards joining the European Union. It has arrested a long list of opposition politicians, including a former president, and charged them with coup plotting. So it's not only in Africa that we're dealing with the menace of coup plotting, whether they be real or whether they be a mirage, aimed at fighting political opponents. Anyway, let's get on to today's conversation. We had what must be one of the greatest news last week of how Nigeria's Eurobond issuance had met with such an unprecedented amount of oversubscription. Lord, can you just take us from beginning to the end? How did we plot such a major financial coup?
Yeah, I mean, it's a record number, $13 billion. I mean, I think it's quite significant. So, of course, the president decided to use the opportunity to just, talk about the impact of his reforms. He's spearheaded those reforms. I know that a lot of those reforms have caused some short-term pain at home in the country, but we're seeing the results. Good results on the macro level. So I think he just wanted to use the opportunity to say that, listen, guys, our reforms are working, they're delivering the goods, and let's stay the course to ensure that it starts to translate to micro gains. But I think it's a big deal, and he just took the opportunity to just really put it out there that, yeah, this is down to the reforms, and investors are really pleased with the type of progress that we're making in the country.
Fantastic. So after the celebration, what does this mean truly for the Nigerian economy?
Good.
How does this transform the economy? How does it impact the life of Nigerians who have felt the pain and the brunt of the economic reforms by government that has yielded this significant dividend?
Okay, so let me quickly go in here. There are two ways to look at it. First is if you look at it from the angle of the exchange rate. So obviously, last week, for instance, we saw the Naira appreciate, although modestly, by just 17 kobo to close at 1,436.57 Naira. So, I mean, if you're able to go on a successful Eurobond issuance like this, you're essentially beefing up your kitty, your external reserves, and that gives further confidence to investors, and then of course, trickles down to a more stable exchange rate, which is what most Nigerians can ordinarily benefit from. So that's on one side. And the second end is this is also a signal of strong investor confidence in Nigeria. Now, you might say that it's just foreign portfolio investors, but the truth is, even FDIs sometimes gauge the sentiment of FPIs to make decisions, investment decisions, because they are also bothered about the stability of the currency, and the country's ability to repay its loans. So this could also be more or less a springboard for us to get even much more FDI through the door, and that would definitely create more jobs for Nigeria. So there are two ways to look at it. From the angle of the exchange rate, the fact that it leads to a more stable exchange rate and could even lead to an appreciation of the Naira, which is what we saw last week, although modest one. And then it could be a precursor for even more increased foreign investment inflows, whether FPIs or FDIs.
So on the flip side, if I may come in here,
please.
It's still expensive money, 9% in dollars. It's a lot of money. It adds to our external debt. Don't forget that this is not a grant. This is a loan, and it will increase our hard currency debt service. It's also important to know that even though relatively our debt to GDP ratio is moderate, but our debt to service revenue ratio remains uncomfortably high. It's still over 40%. So one of the things that this has brought up is, don't forget that as this Eurobond was sold, some other ones became matured. So part of this, we'll use it to offset, whatever the
maturing debts.
Exactly. So it's we need to look at it, give or take. We are using about 1.1 billion to refinance Eurobonds this year. But like Lolade rightly said, it's going to provide a buffer, foreign exchange buffer. It's also going to help, alleviate any fiscal gap or deficits. Again, higher reserve strengthens the CBN's hand to supply foreign exchange. So we are sure that we can absorb any shock, at least in the interim. It also boosts investor psychology. Very, very, very important. That's what I would just like to add.
Please go ahead. No, go ahead.
I would just add quickly that I think what you've said is very correct, and that's why it's important for us to also start to look at how the money is being utilized as well.
Exactly.
I was going to come to that.
Precisely. So that's what I just wanted to add, that it's important we start to look at how the money is being utilized. Debt in itself is not bad. The US, for example, has a debt to GDP ratio that is even over 100%. So it depends on how you use the debt, really. And in Nigeria's case, I think for many years we haven't really channeled debt into the right
direction.
Yes, exactly. So, but we need to really.
I wanted to get to that and be quite pointed about it. $2.5 billion. There isn't any specific purpose that has been attached to the request for this loan, apart from the fact that it will help to finance this year's budget. I'm not exactly sure what items in this year's budget this money will be directed at. But an interesting point I'd like to raise is that a major response that you look for when a country is overborrowed is the investor appetite. We appear to shout a lot at home about the level of our debt, but every time we go to the debt market, we are received warmer than we ourselves ever expect. What does it say about our complaints regarding the high level of debt and how the investors see it? Is the problem, Lolade, because you said debt by itself is not a problem, is what you do with it. So the problem that Nigerians have with debt, is it so much about the quantum or volume, or is it that they don't see much change in the quality of their lives, regardless of the amount of debt that we take each time?
Yeah, I think, for the foreign investors, they look at metrics like debt to GDP, debt to revenue. Debt to GDP is very low. When you compare to our African peers, it's pretty much lower than that of South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and the likes. Even Congo that I mentioned earlier, they are working now to reduce their debt to GDP ratio. Currently, it's at 92%. So you can imagine that, and we are not even near 30%. So debt to revenue sometimes is the one that takes the focus really for us, and that is even coming down now, because it used to be as high as 70% at some point, and as you rightly mentioned, it's now gone down to about 40%. So I think in Nigeria's case, it's not really a case of, I mean, these are little amounts. For the size of our economy, we should even be borrowing much more, if we're being honest.
If we know what to do
yes,
with it.
if we know exactly, if we know what to do with it. So these are very little amounts. Investors look at this and be like, and that's why we're able to attract 13. Imagine you go to the market trying to raise $2.25 billion, you get total bid of $13 billion. I think it gives a sense of just how much we should be targeting when we go to the, but the problem is, as you rightly said, sir, what do we do with this money? The government has just simply said the funds will go into supporting the implementation of the 2025 budget.
What does that mean?
Exactly. Analysts would prefer to see, the money tied to specific infrastructure projects, for instance, to say, okay, this 20% of this will go into fixing the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. This will go into building or fixing, buying, investing in the power sector, for instance, generating X 1,000 megawatts of power, things like that. But we're still not as transparent as we would, as analysts would like to see Nigerian federal government be. But I think it's so, to just go back to the question, I think it's more of what we do with the money, and the fact that the loans we've taken historically hasn't always translated to improved outcomes for our citizens. I think that's where the real contentious issue lies, and that's why you always hear this cry internally when we're about to embark on any.
Is there an obligation here for the media to hold the government to account more? Because what we're seeing here is, we're not just talking about today. We're talking about building a significant debt burden for the unborn generation of our future generation. So is there a duty for the media here to get the government to behave better?
Yes.
That is, each time that they go to the National Assembly to seek a loan, they should be specific as to what the loan is going to be used for. But perhaps more importantly, they must be able to persuade every Nigerian that they have thought about how that loan will be repaid.
Yeah.
For instance, we want to increase Nigeria's oil production to 2.5 million barrels of oil a day, and 500,000 barrels daily will be geared towards offsetting the loan. Or, as you say, we want to build 10 tolled expressways, and tolling from that will help to repay the debt. But as we see, we are not even sure whether we're just borrowing for consumption or whether we are borrowing indeed to improve life for the children who are yet unborn. Dr. Adeosun.
So I think you have said a lot of things, and the response is going to take into consideration the fact that all these things are important. But first and foremost, before I say we should hold the media responsible, I think we should first hold the National Assembly responsible.
No, but the media should hold both of them, both the National Assembly and hold the executive to account. If you get a request, this is how to treat it. Executive, if you are sending a request, this must be accompanied, the request must be accompanied by ABCD.
I get what you mean, but I don't want us to focus first on the second order. The first and primary order is the National Assembly that has oversight. And then you also have the Ministry of Finance.
Yeah, but if the National Assembly is sleeping, is it not the media's duty to wake them up?
So,
because that's what
the media can try to wake them up and they still don't listen.
No, you just keep attempting to wake them up, because has the media got any other business?
So the media,
it's like a dog at the gate.
Slightly more importantly than the media is the citizens.
Yeah, but
so
is
the citizens and
the media's business to set agenda, to tell the people these are the things you should be talking about today. When your representative comes from Abuja, this is the kind of questions you should be asking him or her. That's the media's duty. That's the point. It's creating awareness.
Yes, I think,
and then energizing activism among the people.
And we are doing it to a large extent.
Exactly. So I think Dr. Adeosun is just frustrated that, the media has been playing this role for many years, but it's falling on deaf ears.
No, but they said the taste of the pudding is in the eating.
Yes.
If what you are doing is not getting the results, it means that you have to find a different way to do it.
And we need a critical mass.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
And how better to build a critical mass than to use the mass media? You know, as a journalist, what I find is we complain about what we have done. I focus on what we haven't done. As I said, the media is like a dog. You just keep barking at the gate until help comes from the police or help comes from somewhere. The dog barks today when an intruder is coming. It's no reason why it will not bark tomorrow if it sees that there is danger to the owner of the house. It just keeps barking.
So you will see that the public attention to certain information is short-sighted. So just random thoughts.
Because the media has a short-term memory.
When you mention, Natasha Akpabio, it gains traction. But when you mention economic news, they tune off. It sounds boring. When you are talking about the medium-term plans, 5-year plans, 10-year plans, and all this, I think it's untrue to financing those things.
I think it's untrue to suggest that.
I'm not talking about the elite. I'm talking about the average Nigerian.
It's unfair to suggest that things around debt and the high level of indebtedness of Nigeria does not gain attention of Nigerians. It does.
The critical mass.
It does.
I don't to disagree. No, it is the intelligentsia. They say, how does it affect the price of fish in the market? We are too short-sighted. You just saw an election. Did you see how the election went?
Then the question is
Bad news.
How the media is reporting it. Are you telling me that if we were to reduce borrowing, that Nigerians will not feel the impact? Is that what you are saying? Is it that the media is failing to establish the link between how well or how poorly government is spending to how the Nigerians themselves are feeling? There's a linkage. Whether we have hospitals or whether we don't have depends on the quality of spending. But all that I'm saying is about quality of spending. So it's not so much about whether we borrow or not.
The narrative that the government is a mirror of Nigerians. How well do we spend our personal money?
I mean,
don't we borrow money for actually?
We must take a break here, Dr. Adeosun. And I can assure you, viewers, please don't go away. We will come back to this debate. Whether the government is a small part of the general system or whether the government should be the best of the people. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome. We are back, and this is Business Week. Before we went on a short break, of course, there was a debate around what the media should be doing and whether it is the case that the media has a duty, as some of us have said, to provoke conversation, to lead debate in Nigeria, and to ensure that the people are asking their representatives in government the right questions. We want to pivot now and talk about the impact of the successful Eurobond on foreign exchange reserves. And then to ask the question, we have seen how much of a cooling down effect the stability in the Naira exchange rate has brought to the Nigerian economy. And so we must ask the question, what is the impact? What would be the impact of this successful Eurobond? And how much of an impact or difference should it make to the exchange rate, which I must say is still not anywhere close to the real exchange rate of the Naira?
So if I can jump in quickly here, I must say that first and foremost, the foreign reserve, yes, has impact on what the exchange rate should be, but it's not the only determining factor. For example, we took a loan and then a huge amount of money came in let's say a day or an hour. But don't forget, we can also spend this money in a week or less.
But should we?
So that's why inflow or influx, the foreign exchange market looks a little more at long term. You are looking at stability. You are not just looking, you are looking at the general pattern over time. Now, some of the other critical things that affect the exchange rate, for example, our non-oil exports, we need to focus more on it. We are still slightly high import dependent. We still relatively have a fragile FDI. So what I'm saying is that We need a combination of multiple factors, parameters, concurrently.
I think sometimes the economists seem to me like people who have no sense of reality. They look to me sometimes like people who provide diagnoses that are better suited for a graveyard. I mean, what's the point that you're making? What did Ghana do to secure 40% appreciation in its currency? What did it do about non-gold exports? What did it do about regular inflow of exchange? It's just a question of coming to an acceptance that Nigeria's foreign exchange rate travel over the years has been the top most debilitating factor against life and livelihood in Nigeria.
I like the fact that you brought up Ghana.
And then I'm asking you, so what's the point? What's all this theory you're talking about?
Just a minute, colleagues.
Ghana defaulted.
That not too long ago, this same Ghana did currency redenomination. See, that's what I'm saying. It's not just what you did today. What have you been doing the last 10 years, 20 years? There's a accumulation.
Sorry, Doc, let me say something. Yes, I
please.
think, it's also about what you've been doing in the last few years. Because if you look at the external reserves now, it has nearly doubled in the last 3 years.
True.
2.5 years.
True.
Right? In that
We should see
it depreciated.
Precisely. What are we talking about here?
That's why it's not only the parameter.
Now, I think, you would expect that the more what's the essence of the reserve?
What is the reserve for?
Not impact the Naira.
It's for dead Nigerians.
So, but I think what the CBN is doing here now is, we have damaged investor confidence in the past, and they're just taking it slow and steady to rebuild that confidence again. We have had unorthodox monetary policy for many years.
And I agree with
2023. So I think what the CBN is doing now is just say, okay, let's still keep building these reserves to a level where we know that, okay, we don't have to freight anymore and it's sustainable. Maybe to the $60 billion level that like we had under Obasanjo or Sanusi in the past, maybe to that level. But you can't take away the fact that it is quite curious that we have had this kind of appreciation in external reserves in the last 2 years, and the Naira has no part in it.
You see,
it's difficult.
Marginal parts.
2 points. Yeah. 2 points I'd like to make. First is to ask the question: is our central bank being too cautious?
I think they have every reason to.
Is it reasonable for them to be? Can I finish? Is our central bank being too narrow focused? Does it care about the overall economy and the life of the people? That's one question. The second question is, isn't it time for us to begin to have a debate of a sensible foreign exchange management policy for Nigeria? Because this central bank governor cannot guarantee what the next central bank governor will do. It could be another governor that goes back to unorthodoxy. So we should have a debate. How should we truly be managing what is perhaps an important tool, which is foreign exchange? And given the experience we have had in the recent past, I think it perhaps has become the most important thing. It was even more important than oil production. So shouldn't we have a debate?
We should have a debate.
Should what happened to the Naira just be the preserve of five governors and deputy governors in the central bank?
We should have a debate.
We should have a clear
in a country of 200 million people. Just a minute. I am passionate about this conversation. You see, we should not only see our current exchange rate as a body. What is China doing? They are intentionally keeping their own exchange rate high. Why? To drive exports. What export do you have?
Exactly.
So those are this is the problem I have with the economists. Just quote examples from everywhere. Look, all the time. Can I ask you this question, Dr. Adeosun?
Please go ahead.
You have a PhD. Yes. You will answer for yourself. All this time, I was a journalist when Babangida started the Structural Adjustment Program.
Yes, sir.
Naira was more in value than the dollar. This argument came in from people like Dr. Faraya, Dr. Chuo Kongu and the others, and said we needed to diversify our economy. So let's create Falaya was famous for talking about constructive destruction. So let's constructively destroy the value of the Naira so that we can promote export. Can you tell me today, compared to 1986, 1987, if Nigeria today imports anything, exports anything more today than it imported then? Chief economist, tell me.
Lolade, you need to contribute to this conversation.
Of course.
Yes. So again,
What is it, either by volume or by specific items, what is it today that we export as a nation more than we exported in 1986?
but are you now
oil is
trying
not dominant
to
export.
argue that
Not
we should not
export
let
chain.
forex be a function of demand and supply?
No.
Because this is what the current CBN is doing.
But it's deceitful to say that if you devalue the currency, it boosts exports.
That's a question.
They are not devaluing it. Right now, they are not devaluing it. They are leaving it to market forces.
Over the years.
It's a competitive market.
I mean, you're talking about market forces.
Yes.
So the market forces that you're talking about
Yes.
does not include the volume of reserve a country has. Is that what you're saying?
It's part of the parameter.
That
Not
market
the singular
is
determinant.
just about what the traders and the speculators.
That's the point of the external reserves. So why don't we boost supply relying on the dollars that we have?
No, that external reserve is there.
But I've heard economists also say that the current
Yes.
exchange rate, that with the current exchange rate, that the Naira is
Yes.
actually undervalued.
Of course.
It is a possibility, yes. So it's a dynamic, it's not a static situation.
An
And
economist
you
like,
take it in the long term, not just a short term.
an economist like Bismarck Rewane always talks about the spending power. There's an index, something parity.
Purchasing power parity.
Purchasing power parity.
PPI.
And that if you use that, Naira today should be about $1,200
Yeah.
or even better today.
Yeah.
He's an economist as well. But the point that I'm making is, can we have a broader debate? Can we approach this thing by looking holistically at the whole health of the economy and not just looking at narrow things about Naira, about exchange rates, dollar supply and demand? Because we can get into the argument of what is really demand and supply as it impacts the dollar. I just feel, for instance, that there is a point to begin to say to ourselves, as we improve these various ratings, we're getting better ratings.
Yeah.
We're not defaulting in debt payment. We are increasing our revenue, and so as a result, the ratio of our debt service to revenue is dropping on an annual basis. Shouldn't that show by way of significantly impacting the life of the people? That's all that I'm saying.
And it's a very valid
That's all that I'm saying.
expectation.
I mean, a doctor who's giving you medicine will also tell the patient, you need to do some exercise in addition to the medicine I'm giving to you. That's the point that I'm making, Anyway, we will take on this later. I am being provocative. I like orthodoxy, but the truth of the matter is that everywhere around the world, different countries, depending on where they are at, determine what for them is orthodoxy when it comes to foreign exchange. Pragmatism. There is not a simple formula about floating of their currency, and so they deal with it depending on the place where they are. And I am hoping that our central bank will do the same for Nigeria at some point. We will, at this point, we'll take a short break. And after the break, we will take the last lap of our conversation today. Thank you very much, but please make sure you don't go away. Welcome to Business Week, and we are continuing our conversation today. We will now focus on the so-called threats by the U.S. President Donald Trump to invade parts of Nigeria, seeking, as he says, to save Christians in Nigeria. The Economist published an article today, and it said, Trump seeks to save Nigerian Christians. Really?
Really?
For me, that was really interesting. And it's the question that a number of people are asking around the world. So why, in your view, my guess, that the Nigerian stock market seem to feel the cold more than the other areas of the economy, especially given that there is a dominance today of local players in the market than we have had in the past. So what exactly does the market see that the rest of us are not seeing?
Yeah, let me go in first. I think, so if you look at it, the stock market lost about 2.8 trillion Naira last week.
Yeah, and that's huge.
Yes, quite huge. So market cap went from about 97 trillion to 94 point something trillion. So the problem here is, if you look at the structure of the market, it's now being driven mostly by local domestic investors, right? And less from foreign investors. So I think most of what is driving the decline we're seeing now is just profit-taking activities by the local or domestic investors, really, and less about Donald Trump. Even though you can't rule out that impact entirely, but I think it's more driven by the activities of the domestic investors. Who, let's not forget that this market has, on a year-to-date basis, has appreciated by more than 30%, and a lot of stocks, that were trading are trading like 3 times the prices today compared to where they were at the start of the year. So there's a lot of profit-taking activities going on. We're approaching the end of the year. People typically tend to do a lot of spending at this time of the year, Christmas and all of that kind of preparations. So I think that's more of what we're seeing. But the stock market, 2.8 trillion Naira wiped out of the market cap last week alone, huge, but I don't think it's something that will be sustained over the course of the coming weeks. I think it's just profit-taking, and it tends to come and go. It's not really, there's no clear pattern to these sell-offs.
Okay, so Lolade, you see profit-taking and not so much of Trump effect.
Yeah.
What about you, Dr. Adeosun?
I agree largely, because this year so far, the Nigerian Stock Exchange has been one of the best
performing markets in the world.
And you cannot always expect an upward trajectory.
Without some amount of correction.
There will be a bust at some point. And of course, the timing. We are approaching Christmas, the Yuletide season now, and investors also have alternative sources of uses.
Need some need for cash.
And then people also need to take profits.
Yeah.
Don't forget that most investors do have multiple portfolios, and stock is just one of them. So sometimes divestment in stock can be a boom, or growth in one or two other areas. That's what I would say.
Interesting. So we expect this to be short-lived. That it's not going to go on beyond.
I don't think.
I expect a rebound soon.
Yeah.
Let's get to the other point that people have made. When stocks dip like this, they create opportunity for people to come in.
Yeah.
So is that time now, or there is a need to wait to see a further dip in stock prices?
Like you said, sir, typically people always say buy the dip. So when you see a stock that has solid fundamentals but is going down for reasons that are not backed up by those fundamentals, then it's a time to buy, because you're buying cheaply. And that's one thing value investors look out for. They try to identify stocks that, solid stocks, solid fundamentals, but for some reason there's a small sell-off and the prices come down, and then provides a very good entry points for investors. So for me, the approach I normally take, or the approach I hear people, investment bankers advise that they tell their clients to take is really to buy the dip. Even if it falls lower, keep buying. So it's not really a case of, it's low now, but I'm not sure if it's going to go lower, so I stay off. No, you can buy now, and if it goes even lower, you can buy some more. But of course, there's real value in the Nigerian stock market. Let's not forget that compared to other African markets, Nigerian stocks are still trading at a very cheap discount. I think our price to earnings ratio is about 9 times compared to the frontier market's average of 14 times. So it's still, the stocks are still cheap. they've still got legs to run.
So there's still, a leg to run.
It's an opportunity now for people to just go into those very good, solid names with good fundamentals at a very low price.
Thank you. All right, then. Before we close, or as we close the program today, let me ask the two of you the question. What should Nigeria do about Trump?
Yeah. Let me say something. I think there's something that's been missing in the conversations that we've had so far, since Trump's invasion threat.
Yes.
And it's the fact that perhaps we've forgotten that in 2017, the US under Donald Trump actually tried to assist Nigeria by providing us with some, state-of-the-art, fighter jets. And I think we got like 12
Tucano jets.
Super Tucano.
Yeah, after Obama had
and then it took Trump to just
assistance.
approve that. And then, and of course, this was supposed to help in our battle or war against Boko Haram and the insurgents, right? But since then, nothing has changed. And so imagine that Trump is asking the question. We've given these guys all the...
So what have you done?
What have you done with that? So this is supposed to just jolt us to action. So I think this is really good. What I want to see now from the Nigerian perspective is really get serious, because we're sending, I think the signal here that the government is sending is that we're not really serious about ending this insurgency. And that's what Trump is saying as well. And that's why he's threatening to invade the country. Like, if you don't do this, then I'm going to drop bombs in some selected areas where I feel like would move the needle. So that's what's happening. I think we're not taking this matter seriously.
If I'm hearing you well, what you're saying is, of recent American presidents, Trump is the one that has demonstrated that he loves Nigeria.
Really?
So now, if he's saying this, it's time for our government to sit down and ask ourselves, where did we go wrong?
Precisely. And I think I think this has been overflogged already. It's quite a shame that we don't have ambassadors. Of course, this almost like caught us by surprise. There should have been negotiations.
So we should have been able to explain ourselves better.
Yes.
But even if you had ambassadors, what would they do? The truth of the matter is, the governments over the years have failed woefully to deal with insurgency around Nigeria. So what would your ambassadors do?
Yeah.
So this conversation is a very sensitive one, but also critical.
What's sensitive about it? So because it's taking somebody from outside to tell you that Nigeria, you are failing somewhere.
That's
because
what's sensitive about that?
There are multiple interests and considerations, especially with foreign powers. When you want to invade another country.
When the same foreign power give you weapons, there's no multiple interest. When they don't tell you what are you doing with the weapon, you say they have multiple interest.
Defense budget in excess of 6 trillion this year, and subsequent years we've had more than 5 trillion.
Incredible.
So what have we done with all that money?
Those are
I think
some
Trump
of
is
the
just
questions.
trying to jolt us to wake up and get serious.
But for me, I'm even more concerned. Do we need an external person to jolt us? What if we the people dying?
No. I don't agree with that.
Don't you think it's not doing enough?
Of course, I know that. But what is wrong in someone else jolting you up? Shouldn't that be a blessing?
Yeah.
Why should it be a problem? Why should it be a problem for you?
If it solves the problem, we're all talking about it now.
Just solve the problem. Doesn't matter who's the one that has pushed you to solve it.
If it wasn't for Trump, I don't think we'd be having this debate about
the argument for genocide. If the argument was
forget genocide. We are just saying that people are dying needlessly as a result of militancy.
Precisely.
Stop it. It is the number one business of government to secure its people. That's all. In whatever name that they are dying.
Yeah.
People are dying. And Trump said people are dying. You might forget the coloration. I think we should be honest with ourselves.
No, the security architecture hierarchy needs to sit up. They need to do more, and they need to show evidence. They need to show working. That's not negotiable. It's very, very important. Arrests, persecutions, and that's why the recent pardon was a joke. When you are pardoning people that did gun running and some of those other things. I'm not surprised that Trump's allegation is coming shortly after that pardon. People may not want to link it, but
anyway. What a very interesting conversation we have had today. But I'd like to leave by saying one or two things about the ongoing doctors' strike in Nigeria. I think it is terrible. The fact that the government has not done enough to end this strike, for me, it's a big shame, and those in authority should themselves be ashamed. Patients are being moved from hospitals by their relations. Patients are discharging themselves. Patients are dying in hospitals, even at teaching hospitals. And all we're hearing is about elections in one place and election in another place. And you're asking yourself, is this election about dying people? Is this what is governance about in Nigeria? Anyway, I leave you with a significant food for thought. If you are the ones who vote, or you are the ones who see your representatives come from Abuja once in a while, I hope you would have the opportunity to ask them the question. You all in Abuja, what indeed do you do? On that note, we will end today's program. Thank you for joining us. See you at 9 o'clock on Monday.